Today's video is about people pleasing, the strengths of a people pleaser as well as the dangers of people pleasing, because there are two sides. There's a dark side and there's a light side. There's always both sides of any kind of personality type that we might have. So generally, people pleasers are born that way. So it is something that you're born with. It may also be shaped in childhood by people just encouraging you every time you are giving and being kind and being sweet. I have been called a people pleaser my whole life, and I've noticed that it is definitely one of my traits. In positive intelligence, we call this a saboteur. But positive intelligence does also recognize that every saboteur has a character strength. And in fact, when we are overusing or abusing our character strengths, that's when it becomes a saboteur. So we're not always self-sabotaging. It's a good thing to please others. It's a good thing to be kind, to be sweet, to be caring, to be loving, to be generous, to be giving. Those are all fantastic traits. And we're not saying there's anything wrong with that as such. What we're saying is when you overuse and abuse the pleasing, you tend to become resentful. You tend to be putting your own needs aside and favor of somebody else's needs, and you can be abused. This is probably the most common saboteur that can be taken advantage of, that can be abused. And so you will often find that pleaser personality types are going to be with people who are quite abusive, controlling, demanding, overbearing, and maybe even, I don't really like to use this term, but maybe even narcissists. Okay. So you might find that you're in a relationship with a narcissist because deep inside you are looking for love and affection in all the wrong places. Okay. So what do I mean by that? The way that people pleaser would overuse and abuse their pleasing tendencies is because of where it comes from. When it is coming from a place of wanting to be accepted, wanting approval, wanting to be liked, wanting to be loved. That's what I mean by looking for love in all the wrong places. Where are we supposed to find that love? From ourselves, deep within ourselves. If we can start loving ourselves, then our people-pleasing tendencies will go. That's why in positive intelligence, when we rewire the brain, one of the things that gets fired is the empathy circuitry in the brain. Yes, you have a lot of empathy when you are people-pleasing, but it's not a lot of empathy for self. It's generally for others. So you want to make sure that that is switched on, and at the same time, your activate sage power is also switched on, because being in activate mode, you will have clearer boundaries. You will be more focused. You will be able to see the wood for the trees. So essentially what happens with people pleasers and why it's so dangerous, the dark side of people pleasing, why we become resentful, is because we overgive and over deliver, and eventually we are giving from an empty cup. We are running on empty. And it hurts us. Also, if we're looking for approval and not getting it, if we're doing all the things, caring for people and giving to people and overdoing for them, it makes them dependent on us. And it's a thankless job. As they become more and more dependent, they become more resentful. It's like a double-edged sword. We becoming more resentful. And then, yeah, just the whole situation doesn't work. It doesn't work well in relationships when you overdo anything. It's just like, I remember hearing sometime, yeah, you know how we have all these food allergies nowadays and food intolerances because we overdo certain foods. Somebody mentioned the other day that rooibos tea, which is our lovely herbal tea here in South Africa, that even if you drink too much rooibos tea, that will have an ill effect on you. So that will not be effective. Too much of anything is a bad thing. So There's two things to think about here if you are people pleasing a lot and it is damaging yourself and your relationships, if you're becoming resentful. The one is, where is it coming from? When you are about to rescue someone, give to someone, flatter someone, which place is it coming from? Is it coming from a place of, I need your approval, I want you to love me, I want you to like me? Is it coming from a needy place? Or is it coming from, I just want to give because it gives me joy to give. It gives me such joy to give. It feels really good. So if there is a gift that comes to you in doing and the giving and the loving and the caring, and you just feel great when you do it, if there's no resentment, if there's not even a need for gratitude, then you know you're doing it from the right place. If you're doing it saying, where's my thank you? How come you didn't give a thank you? Then you know you're already out of balance, okay? You know that you have given from your saboteur rather than your sage. So that's what you want to be asking yourself. So there's those two things. The one thing, where is it coming from? And the second thing is, are you doing it expecting a return? So you're giving this, but it's a tit for tat thing. Like, I'm going to give you this, but I expect that in return. Or I'm going to give you this piece of advice. I'm going to rescue you. I'm going to say to you, this is the answer, but you expect the person to do exactly as they're told. You've got the whole thing laid out for them. You've set it up, and you expect them to follow through on exactly what you have said is going to be the best way to rescue them. So you're not allowing the person to rescue themselves, you being the source of their rescue, instead of putting it in their own lap and saying, be the source of your own rescue. It's that idea of, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. And that's the same thing with being a people pleaser. So if you are saying, okay, I am the great big rescue, I come and I just give, and you're not helping people. I remember there's a feeding program in Africa that I learned about called Nourish the Children, which is absolutely beautiful. What they do in Nourish the Children is they actually teach the villagers of the rural areas, they teach people how to grow their own things. They have the people working in the factories creating this beautiful porridge that has got lots of nutrients and that sort of thing. But they're also teaching them to be subsistence farmers and grow their own things. Now that is really giving back in a way that would be more useful. That is, like, from an organizational perspective, not just people pleasing, giving in a way that is going to be uplifting, seriously uplifting to the community. That is the way to give. When it is not going to, you can actually walk away from that and it's all set up. You can come in, help people set it up, but then they've got to take charge. The onus is still on them to rescue themselves. The onus is still on them to do the work, do what it takes to turn their financial situation around. For example, I'm just giving an example. The strengths of a giver is that they are loving, caring, generous, giving. They are motivational. They make people feel good about themselves. But the flip side of that is that they have a desperate need to be liked, approved of. They want acceptance and approval because they're not giving it to themselves. And the other flip side is that they're so busy giving to everybody else that they're not giving to their own needs, and they don't even know what their own needs are. So when I first came into the program, and I saw when I did my saboteur assessment that pleaser was my top one, and my second one was hyperachiever. The hyperachiever felt for me like a nicer one, like hyperachiever, that's good. Like I kind of feel nice identifying with hyperachiever, but pleaser doesn't feel right. I kept taking the test again. I've taken it a few times, but pleaser is still my top one. And then one day it just dawned on me, the question you need to ask if you're a pleaser is, what do I need? And I thought to myself, what do I need? I don't know what I need. I have no idea what I need. I'm so busy focused on my family's needs, on what my husband needs, what my mother needs, what my child needs. I am so busy focused on my friends' needs, my clients' needs, everybody's needs, right? I'm looking at everybody else, and my whole life is compartmentalized according to whose needs I'm looking after next. Is it going to be my husband? Is it going to be my child? Is it going to be my clients? Is it going to be my friends, my son's friends? Oh, the animals. Let's not forget that we also have pets that we're looking after their needs as well. Whose needs am I looking after? When do I ever ask the question, what do I need? Try to keep everybody happy. How does that saying go? If you're trying to please everybody, you please no one, or something like that. I've always said that the hardest thing for me is when two of the people I love want two different things. I'll have my husband wanting one thing and my son wanting another thing, and maybe my dog's wanting another thing, because the pets come into this too, right? And which way do I go if everybody wants something else? And that's what gets really hard to say, well, what do I need? What do I want? What do I choose? A people pleaser, or someone who is people pleasing a lot, finds it really hard to examine their own needs and desires and wishes, because they are spending their lives focused outside of themselves, focused on others. Not only do people pleasers struggle to uncover their own needs, but they also struggle to express their own needs, because they think by expressing their own needs, people are going to walk away from them. And then actually what really happens is we drive people away by being too pushy, or saying you've got to do things my way, or I've got the solution for you and you need to take my solution or else. They can also drive people away by coming across as needy, because remember, they are wanting approval, love, and affection. The very thing that a pleaser feels most is loneliness. It's not being liked. It's being shunned. Being shunned would be like a fate worse than death for a pleaser. They do not like being ignored, shunned, put aside. They want to be noticed. They want to be loved. They are giving love and affection in order to be loved back, in order to have that caring back. And it's always a shock to them, because they are kind, gentle, caring, loving people. It's a shock to them if love doesn't come back to them. They cannot understand how the world works if you look at it from a childlike perspective. So the sage perspective is you need to start taking care of your own needs, emotionally, physically, financially. If you are people pleasing all the time and focus on everybody else's needs, it's time to start asking yourself, what do you need? And taking care of your own needs. And so it is a really good idea to take some time every day in contemplation, just asking the question, what do I need now? What do I need now? What do I need? Maybe you're like me and people pleasing is one of your top accomplice saboteurs. I'd love to hear how people pleasing is affecting your life. Do you become resentful when you are pleasing others? Because then you are not in sage. So wishing you all the best for that, and I'll chat to you again tomorrow.